the first month of fall is only a few days away, so I wanted to talk about the temperatures, expected temperatures forecast for the fall months. I did talk about on the side of precipitation on a few videos ago, so make sure you take a look at that one. It's titled "Will Fall Be Active?" But now in this one, we'll mostly talk about on the temperature side of fall, if it will be warmer than average, around average, or below average across the Midwest. But I will be showing much of the United States as well as I usually do in these type of videos. We're gonna first take a look at a few different model guidance, and then I will talk about my opinion on each of the model guidance as well. And pretty much at the end, I'll talk about my forecast itself for this fall. Taking a look at the European guidance for September, this model wants to have a pretty far above average, I guess, for temperatures for the month of September in the Midwest and further southeast to go. I do think this might verify. I do think we might have a slightly above average September, but I'm not expecting a blow towards September or any of that. I do think the first frost will happen in the upper Midwest in the second half of the month. Now, interestingly, it has turned a quarter for October as well. This is for October, and we can see that it will be around average in the Midwest. It mainly across most of the country, to be honest with you. We look to be around average, maybe slightly below average, even in some of the Midwest, depending how things will, I guess, evolve through the month of September. So again, it has trended quarter for October. This could be an early start to. I mean, if this would happen, you could maybe talk about an early start to snow season, earlier frost, and average the further south you go, I guess, in the Midwest. But the average first frost in a lot of the Midwest is October to begin with. So I mean, we might have an average first frost, which I did talk about that in my last video. If you wanted to look at that, my last video talked about the average, my forecast for the first frost. We're getting a pretty average October. Now for November, it has a pretty, I guess, above average in the upper Midwest. For November, more of a pretty El Nino look. Yes, it has cooler for the south you go, but warmer the further north you go in the upper Midwest. Again, not very warm though overall, so this would still definitely allow for cold shots in the month of November. Now, if you wanted to put all 3 months together, again, it's around average to only slightly above average this fall, according to this model, which can be a pretty reliable model, but it can also have a warm bias as well. But this is only about a degree or two, if that. I mean, a degree above average, even around average for temperatures this fall. So we are not expecting a very mild fall overall. Now a different model for fall, I mean for September next month. This model has pretty far below average temperatures over the center of the Midwest. I guess you can say the country for next month. I don't think this is gonna happen. I do think we'll round up probably slightly above average for temperatures in September. So this model, I would throw that out for September. For October, it has around average to slightly below average temperatures, not very far off from the other model I just showed, the European model before this model. So it's pretty similar for October as well. Now for November, it has around average to slightly below average temperatures as well in the month of November. So if you look at all 3 months of fall, this has average to slightly below average, but not very far off from the European model at all. It does have a cold bias compared to the other model, but again, if you want to even them both out, you would say that we would have a average fall for temperatures between both of these models. One thing we're going to look at is the upper pattern as well for the fall month. This is for October. You see some ridging, I guess, the further northwest you go in the country and into the southwest portions of Canada. Not really much troughing or ridging the further south you go in most of the country at all. So this is what we're allowed for a pretty average October to happen. Is you don't really have a whole lot, but if you do have some ridging over some of the Gulf of Alaska, you can get some pretty cold shots of maybe Arctic air down into the lower 48 as well. If you get some ridging over the Gulf of Alaska, this ridge placement, if this would happen, would be just a little bit too far east to get them true Arctic blast to happen in the fall months. But again, if that shifts any further west, you can typically get a pretty strong cold front. This is for September. It does have some ridging, pretty expansive ridging over the United States. This would allow for a above average September. You don't really have much troughing at all. Maybe a little bit cooler for the east you go, but if you can get much troughing in the west, you can get a little bit cooler temperatures than what is modeled. That is a possible solution. So this could be a little too warm as well, but probably pretty average to just slightly below, above average September. And for November, it has some troughing showing up in the Gulf of Alaska, with the ridging over the southern portions of Canada, a pretty El Nino look pattern. Again, the question is, will this verify? You know what I mean? Though, but showing the troughing in the Gulf of Alaska, that is pretty much opposite of what you want for Arctic blast as well. But we'll see the placement of the trough, because if it's a further east placed trough, you could be talking about more of a negative P&A pattern that would allow for a very active pattern first off, but you can also allow for quite a bit of cold air than upper Midwest rather than this ridging that would be in place. But if this ridge stays in place, you would have it being pretty warm in the upper Midwest, but cooler the further south you go as well. Now, what's the latest model run out? I guess we will have another model run come out in just a few days, actually, on September 1st. So I'll make a video on that as well. But it also does have a pretty active fall as well that we talked about in the last video. But you can see a good amount of, I guess, active fall, I guess, if you want to say, for the southern half of the Midwest or so, maybe of the country or so. If you look at the standpoint of all 3 months of fall, again, I mean, a lot of the country really does have above average for precipitation over, again, most of the country. Some of the Midwest is not, but again, for being this model, that's a pretty active look and a pretty cool look compared to what it usually is for temperatures as well. So again, a pretty interesting fall is ahead. We may get some early snows possible into October. I do think that we will get some snow chances in October in the Midwest, but we probably hold off and any true Arctic blast or probably big winter storms until we get deeper into November. So towards the end of fall, so closer to the average, we get them, I guess you want to say. So I don't see it really an average big winter storm, you want to say, but I do think we may get some early snowfalls into the Midwest into October, which will be further south in the Midwest. That is what would make it to be a early snow throughout these areas. Though I will say, long range ensemble again continues to trend colder the closer we get. We had that problem last winter too, where it looked warm out, and as we get closer, it continued to trend colder as well. So this is a look for the middle of September as well. You can see the second week of September, you can see it has trended even colder for that time frame from a couple of different ensembles. So again, if you see a pretty warm bias in the long range from ensembles, it will probably trend colder as we get closer, because it all depends on the upper air pattern, and especially all the teleconnections that we do, including the MGO, which the MGO means the Madden-Julian oscillation that really will drive our pattern. It always does for on the side of it, precipitation, but also temperatures as well. So again, a lot of variables into a long range forecast as well. But again, it continues to trend colder the closer we get to each week. So I would think that this fall would likely be around average rather than being slightly above average. And the Climate Prediction Center agrees with that, showing an average fall overall in the Midwest.